going on there, Jerk Faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's our weekly live stream where we talk about the news, current events. Of course, lately it's been more of a bit of a open forum for Robert and I to conduct thought experiments and hash out more esoteric ideas.
Yeah, like Abraham Lincoln is evil.
Yeah. Yeah, Abraham Lincoln's a piece of shit. There, I said what I said. But yes, it's all those things, as well as our movie review. That's a new month, so we will be starting a new theme, an abbreviated theme for this month, because Robert has some personal obligations that he has to attend to for the rest of the month. So there are only going to be 2 streams this month. This one, and then the following one, and then we're going to go on a 2-week break.
And then we will jump into because this month was supposed to be Robert Mitchum month, but we're going to push that back to next month. So it's May, so Mitchum May.
Yeah, there you go. The alliteration, I love it. And for tonight's movie review, if you didn't see it in the title, it's The Trouble with Harry, a Hitchcock film starring John Forsythe, a very young Shirley MacLaine. I've only known Shirley MacLaine as kind of old, but wow, she was very cute.
And Edmund Gwynn, as we know, is Santa Claus from Miracle on 34th
That's
Street.
That's where it's from. I knew he looked familiar. I've seen him before.
Yeah, but we did that a couple years ago for our Christmas episode with Santa Claus. We talked about his film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where he's from. Okay. Yeah, Edmund Gwenn and a very young Jerry Mathers. And for you old time TV aficionados, you'll recognize that name as the actor who played Leave It to Beaver. He played Beaver on the show. But this is even before even that show.
This is about 2 or 3 years before that show. So he's a really little kid.
Yeah, very little, very young.
But yeah, this is going to be a very different Hitchcock film. This is right in that gold, what a lot of people consider his golden era of movies.
Uh-huh.
And yet this is one that people forget. It's right smack dab in the middle of that golden era, and no one talks about this film.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about it tonight.
Right. Yeah, it's not what when you hear about this when you hear the title of this movie and then you hear Hitchcock, you might think it a certain way, but you'd be wrong.
It is the only comedy of his that I can think of.
Yeah. So you have that to look forward to. I do have some thoughts on it, and I wonder if you and I will be simpatico.
Ooh.
We usually are, but
maybe not.
Maybe not. We'll see.
That's a nice teaser.
Yeah.
Well, we also because of last week, it's a little bit of both our faults, mainly mine.
More Roberts.
I should I should have been more diligent in making sure that you watched the correct film. But since last week, have you seen the movie that we were supposed to review last week, in Memoir of a Murderer?
I did indeed.
What did you think, Andy?
I did like it. I enjoyed it very much. It was it was thrilling. It was exciting. It played, again, because last month's theme, to remind everyone, it was Memory March. So, this is a story about a serial killer who develops Alzheimer's, and so slowly, he loses, his mental faculties, even just keeping his story straight of certain events. And so This movie came out pretty recently, 2017.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know why, but it kind of reminded me of John Wick a bit. But of course, because John Wick came out in 2014, so I wouldn't be surprised if the directors were, taking a little bit of stylistic
And Dexter.
inspiration.
Dexter and John. I didn't. Why do you think John Wick?
Well, just because of the action, the fight choreography a little bit towards
Oh,
at the end in the cabin.
oh yeah, okay, yeah, you're right.
It, it, it felt it felt it felt a little familiar, and then like thinking back on it, it very much felt like they took inspiration from the John Wick franchise. But yeah, like the whole idea of this guy is that he wasn't killing merely out of just blind rage or psychotic motives. He felt that he was doing the world a service by removing these detestable characters, or at least detestable as he would describe them. Um, and so in that way, his killing was very controlled, at least up until a certain point. Um, and then he gets into this accident, which then I think contributes to his acquiring Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah,
And so
because
yeah,
like his last kill, he gets into a bad car wreck, and
right.
then that's where he starts to develop his dementia.
Mhm.
Though it seems like based off like some of the flashbacks, like that it started developing like right away. As I thought that was a little weird, um,
Right,
but like
because because Alzheimer's is a degenerative disease, and it happens over some time. For it to manifest as soon as even the inciting accident, that's a that's a you really have to suspend your disbelief a little,
it has,
more.
like the
Well,
movie earns it.
I believe
The,
I agree with that as well. Um, I did really enjoy this movie. I enjoy I really enjoyed um, this guy's slow this his slow like kind of trudge towards complete mental breakdown, um, and just trying to figure out like which parts of the story were real and which ones were false. They at
that
the
was
end they do kind of like the reveal of like, oh, it was him all along. But there are some scenes where they don't explain, like when he remembers that when the daughter's boyfriend attacks him at night and makes that deal with him, saying like, "Oh, you take the blame for my murders, and I won't kill your daughter or whatever." And then he remembered that like the recorder turned on, so he had the incriminating evidence. But and then when he played it for the chief, he gets startled by uh, the boyfriend, and he kind of acts weird. But then they never did the reveal of that scene,
right.
which I think is kind of confusing, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really hurt the movie.
No, like I said, like some of like the little flaws in the film are
Mhm.
like more like nitpick flaws. I think
Right.
the grand scheme of the movie, it takes you on a while, like because you are like similar to how we were with the father. We're in the mind of someone that's going through dementia. Now it's not quite as terrifying as it was in that film, but like it says, you're not sure. Like, wait a second, he is what he's thinking about real? Is it made up? Is it like something like he imagining something? Is he forgetting something, or is he like in some cases he thought that he might have actually been the perpetrator? It's like, wait, am I? Did I actually kill these people? And like it was just I was like remembering old murders, or like I was remembering like I was back in that time.
Mm,
Because there's times like where he is lucid, but it's as the movie goes on, those moments of lucidity are the periods become more strung out.
mhm,
It's like where like his lucid moments become like they keep getting like further and further away.
mhm.
Um, and it's just yeah, it's just such a very interesting film. I think it's a great idea. Like I said, it's not it's taking like homage from like Dexter, and you say John Wick, and I now that you're mentioning that, I was like, yeah, I can see that. You get a little bit of action in there.
Mhm.
You get the you like this serial killer who doesn't necessarily kill for the. I mean, he's a bad dude, but like he's not necessarily killing like innocent people. He's killing bad people.
Right, but I mean, some of those people, some of the people that that he kills are, I think the motivations are dubious because
I think he's trying to kill people like his dad.
maybe, but it's just like, oh god, who was that one? Who was that one person? Uh,
Well, he killed the lady who like was abusing her dog.
right, yeah, well, like, yeah, yeah, because like what she brought in the dog, like she killed the dog to get the ring back when she could have just easily had just had him like do a procedure or give the dog like ipecac to like make the dog throw up the ring that it had swallowed. And
Well,
that's like
the thing
what.
is, I think like when she brought the dog in, she had already snapped its neck.
Right,
And,
right, 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 right.
like so, there was like yeah. So as a veterinarian, like he obviously cares about animals, which is kind of
Right.
weird for a serial killer, to be honest.
Well,
And
but I mean, I'm sure it helps him with his murders.
true,
Yeah, because I mean,
similar to how
even if you're a vet, you probably have to take some like human medicine like courses
yeah, oh yeah,
and like
because
and yeah, and so like even if you work on animals, you still kind of understand how like the like human body would work and how like skeletal and like musculature works. Uh, you know pretty cross species.
the
Um,
only thing that the if I had like one big like flaw, like or not, I wouldn't call it a flaw. Just like it was like I want to understand more. Like this movie could go with a prequel, like kind of like going more into like his backstory of like we know that like obviously he became a killer after like what his dad put him through.
mhm.
Um, but like the like I could see a whole like movie of him going through his time as a serial killer. But I want to know like why did he kill like well, it turns out like his daughter is technically not really his daughter, obviously,
Right,
but
right, right.
though he raised her.
Mhm.
But like I don't understand like why did he kill her mom? Like
Well, 'cause I think just because of the betrayal.
well, hey, you know what? It's like what did
Yeah, I
Christopher
mean,
J.
because
Simpson
what like in the flashback you see this guy in his underwear, and and he was already dead, and so that was obviously her lover, and so he like, and I think
probably her real dad?
maybe not her real dad, but that like that, but if she cheated, then the likelihood she's cheated before with some other guy.
Oh, true.
So it doesn't necessarily necessarily have to be like, oh, she only cheated on with this guy who was like her high school sweetheart or whatever. She could have just been a loose woman. Um, so yeah, and I think regardless, he was gonna kill his wife, and I think ultimately he was gonna go. I think he was on his way to go kill his fake daughter.
That's the thing. I was like, man,
Yeah,
that's where I'm like,
that was super
not.
fucking dark. Um,
And I'm so well. I'm happy.
because he's like, oh, like, why, because she's like, she's not pleading for her life. She's like, oh, just whatever you do, don't kill, the kid. And he's like, oh, why wouldn't I, why would I kill my own child? And then he's starting to put two and two together. It's like, shit, she's not mine. And so,
Yeah. Like, fuck.
yeah.
So like that part is like super dark. So maybe it was a good thing that he got into that accident. Like it kind of
Right. Well, maybe and maybe not, because I think that accident kind of bifurcated, his personalities, and like that murderous, desires that he had were, I don't know, like kind of like Jekyll and Hyde themselves, and like they would manifest, and I think, if he wasn't in that accident, I think he would have been better able to keep that under control. But because of that
no,
accident,
he was gonna kill that he was gonna kill his daughter.
yeah,
Like his like the girl. He was gonna kill
yeah,
her.
because like when we see the the kind of the reversal side of that scene that we see in the beginning, it's like he had murderous intent in his eyes, and he was like freaking out his kid, the fake daughter, and then it wasn't until like she was able to reach him that that he was able to snap himself out.
I know, like, but with with him killing, I'm guessing that they were married, but maybe not. Maybe they weren't married, but like they were together, or like he thought they were together. It's like, what did Chris Rock say about OJ? It's like, listen, I'm not saying it was right, but I understand.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, I think no, but I think for him to like kill his wife, like it would have had to have been
Something
a betrayal.
really
It couldn't be like they were just together and like she stepped out.
no, and
Yeah,
like
they'd had to have been married.
that's what I'm saying. Like the movie leaves me wanting more. Like I want to know more about this guy's story, just because. And like I said, I'm probably happy that they're not. We probably will never get that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like I could almost go for like another 30 minutes, or like maybe like another like hour of the film, kind of like an hour prequel. Kind of talking about like his backstory as a serial killer and like what happened. Like
I mean, I think we get a pretty. I think we get a pretty good gist of everything. Through that montage in the beginning. Where yeah, he killed that woman that that killed her dog just to get her ring back, and the fishmonger who's constantly beating on his wife and kid. Like he got his,
a
and
guy
then
just like his dad. It's like
yeah. So that makes sense. And so I think I think we get a pretty good idea of like what his uh, post pre-crash career was like. I mean, unless again we're gonna unless they're gonna lean into the unreliable narrator and like none of these people were bad and he just fucking hated them and he just killed them.
that would be an interesting twist too.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Right,
it just
because again, where this is all from his perspective, and these are like all his memoirs of things that he can remember, and so can we trust the word of someone who has dementia?
right. Do you like him as our main character?
I do like him as the main character.
Yeah, he is pretty. I think he's funny. The guy I actually really like in this film is that freaking like his police officer friend.
Yeah.
Because that's also honestly that is super tragic as well, because he we get a little bit of his story because they've obviously been friends for a while.
Right.
And he's been an officer in this small town. And it's like, and the guy's clearly like he's a pretty decent detective. And the guy asks like, why haven't you like left for like the city and like done better things?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy feels responsible because he was unable to solve a murder of this convenience store clerk girl that he had kind of befriended.
Yeah.
And he had promised her family that like promised the family that he would find her killer.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually even like he gave up smoking. Like he went in to buy a pack of cigarettes, and the girl died like the next day, and he never opened that pack.
Yeah.
And it's like, and he's like, when I solve this case, I'll open up this pack of cigarettes. And it turns out, the tragedy is like that the guy that he's been friends with forever is the one that killed her.
Yeah.
Now we don't know, was the convenience store girl like the mom, or was it some other woman that he killed?
No, no, it couldn't have been, or like, you mean, are you talking about his wife?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Oh, okay. But then again, the whole unreliable narrator thing, because um, if she was his wife, then the cop would have known that. So like, why was he like like sniffing around her?
Right. Okay. So it. Oh, you know what? Okay. I think the person that like, uh, when remember like when he's kind of like we start to see him like losing it, and he's like we see him like stalking that woman, and like he goes to choke her, and then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden he snaps to like attention, like his brain comes back, and it's his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
It's that woman that he's choking. I
Yeah,
think
it's
that.
his wife. Yeah, he's seeing his wife, and like,
No, no,
yeah,
but no, I don't think that was his wife. I think that was another woman that he was like remembering that he like that he had killed like in that area, and he was
I don't.
remembering.
Well, from what I remember, like this, you don't really get a look at her face, but when you see the silhouette, it looks very much like the woman that is portrayed in that flashback. As his wife.
I'm
So,
gonna have to check that out again because
so
I
maybe it was just like his memory not like allowing him, because he's losing control of his memory. So he like it's like constantly like shifting. And
could
then
be.
also because the daughter looks a lot like, I mean, I know
Oh,
it's a Korean
yeah,
film, but the daughter looks a lot like the wife
maybe you're right.
or the mother.
'Cause- yeah, because
And so maybe it was just like his mind kind of losing its grip and saying like, "Oh shit, she's alive." So it must be that time I killed her, so I gotta kill her again.
our main character's last kill was supposedly 17 years ago,
Right? Yeah.
and
The
girl
wife was
was
the wife
killed.
was supposed to be the last murder.
Right, and that girl was killed 17 years ago. So that's where it's like, that's why I was saying like it has to be like one of the like I don't know. And like I said, it could be the unreliable narrator,
Mm-hmm.
and we might not know. And if I'm wrong, if somebody like understands the story a little bit better, I've only seen the movie a few times, so like it might be one of those things I got to go back and kind of like really look at it again. But that's where I was like, oh man. So that's kind of like a tragic story for like his the cop friend,
Mm-hmm.
but then he like the our antagonist, like the other serial killer, who is really God, he's a real piece of shit. He
Yeah,
when he like
but he's not though, right?
he is.
He's not. No, he's not he's not. In actuality, he's not a real killer.
Yes, he is.
He is.
Yeah,
He actually is.
he actually is a killer. Yeah, that's the thing. Like that was like that was kind of like the fake out for you, because we're starting to think like, oh, maybe like because our main character is starting to think like, did I kill those people? Like, am I did I get become active in killing again? Did I like do this? But no, it was this guy that he had killed like a lot of girls in like around the area. Like he was the one that was kidnapping girls and killing them, and utilizing him as he's a police officer, but he was like utilizing that as a disguise to like help cover up his murders.
Oh, I didn't get that. I didn't get that. Well, yeah, it seemed like
See,
he was, but then it kind of comes full circle that like it was actually him all along. Like, because it's like you think that it was
then why did
the Teju guy that kills his chief, but it was actually Byung-soo, the main character,
no
who
no
kills
no
him.
no 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 that
And
was
then and then no, and then the integration of like
so
certain
he's fighting
aspects,
himself.
because like because of the crash that he had, like he had a sunken part of his head, which the so-called killer had as well, but then it was actually Pyung-soo who had the sunken in part of his head, probably from that crash.
Get out of here! No way.
Yeah, At the end, they
I,
show like, oh, like the cop sees the X-ray or whatever. It's like, oh, is this what a someone with dementia's brain looks like? And then like you don't see it at first, but then when they start doing the reveal of how it was actually Pyong-soo all along, like you see like the caved in part of like the side of his head.
did I completely like misunderstand this movie altogether?
Um, it may be that I watched the extended version also because I know there are
There's
two
an
there
extended
are two
version?
versions. There are two
No way.
versions. Yeah. So maybe I saw the extended version.
Maybe you did because like I'm like thinking about this is like no, the guy like he's another killer altogether. Like it's just like that's that, and that was like he was trying to save his daughter from this other killer.
Maybe that's why I have like this weird. Maybe that's why I have like this nitpicky thing about the movie because there are some parts where it feels like very much like that he's just being a cop, and other times where he's just being like sadistic asshole killer type.
Oh, man, okay, I'm gonna have to find the
Yeah,
extended
because the
cut.
one that I saw was like almost 2 hours long.
I'm trying to think of like what version I watched then because
Because I think there are two different cuts. Um,
now this is interesting. Like I'm actually like I'm if that's the case, I'm actually really happy that this happened because yeah, I watched it on Amazon,
mhm.
and I think so I saw the version I saw was an hour and 58 minutes, I think.
Well, that's the one I saw.
So are we just like seeing it differently then? Because I'm maybe the details that you must have seen some details that I missed.
Well, because just at the end, it kind of does like that reveal of how uh, it was the main character all along. Like the scene where the chief is opening up his cigarettes, like, oh, I finally got him and whatever. And like initially we see that it's Teju, the police officer guy, the secret killer that kills him. But then at the end, it goes and does like these flashbacks where it like fills in and like of like what like really happened, quote unquote. And we see that it was Pyong-soo, the main character
Well,
guy.
you know what? Maybe I didn't see the extended cut then because I don't remember that at all.
Maybe, yeah, because like the one. Hold on, let me. Okay, Let me pull up the one that I saw. Real fast.
This is very interesting. Like I'm and this just makes me like have a reason to rewatch this film. Just
Okay. Oops. Okay. Yeah, 118 minutes. Yeah, that almost puts it at 2 hours. Yeah, like a minute, an hour 58. Yeah.
and so there's like and that's the director's cut or like the extended cut or something like that.
Maybe because I thought I just read somewhere that there was like two different, like the theatrical and then like an extended. But maybe I'm wrong. Okay. Okay. Well, the one that where I watched it, it says 2 hours and 8 minutes.
Oh wow, yeah.
So maybe
So
I did watch an extended version,
okay,
which is
wow.
like, maybe like 5 or 6 minutes more footage or whatever.
I think this is gonna be one of those things like we're gonna have to rewatch this film together and like
Yeah.
and I because I believe you like if you're because you're very adept at catching details like I am
Hmm.
and maybe I missed something altogether.
Maybe. Yeah. But yeah. But like in any case, yeah. At least the one that the version that I watched, yeah, it's um, yeah.
See,
For a while, like yeah, as I was watching, it did. Yeah, I did feel that it was this Teju guy. That he was also like a secret killer, but then at the end it made like they did like the flash like the kind of like where like the memory kind of like refocuses, and it was actually Teju that ran into Byung-soo, the main character, at that initial crossing, and Teju was the one that noticed the blood dripping from Byung-soo's trunk.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, like because and yeah, we're gonna have to rewatch this movie together because like I said,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
we're,
and then
we're
again, and
seeing
then
it
like
differently.
it kind of cemented it because like the prosecutor like was doing the interview, and then like one of the detectives came in with like the CAT scan or the MRI of Kyung-soo, and then he's like, "Oh, what does it matter now?" It's like he gets to go free anyways. And then he looks at it. He looks at the chart. He looks at the scan, and it's like, "Oh, is that what a murder's mind looks like?" And then when they show it to you, like he has an indent in his head. Kind of like how they showed like Teju, the cop killer.
Now,
Got
was that at the hospital, like the hospital scene at the end of the film?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Do you not
okay.
remember that scene,
No, I see. I
or do
don't.
you not remember even seeing that scene?
No, no, no. I remember the hospital,
Uh huh.
and like so because the daughter knows that she realizes that he is a killer.
Mhm.
She understands, and like she's kind of freaked out by that.
Mhm.
But he rescues her from this guy,
Mhm.
and she decides to forgive him for for his uh
First
uh
past, yeah.
for his past, and like she gives him the haircut and all that stuff.
Oh, that's
But
the part I didn't see then. Cause yeah, I was weird because he does get a haircut, but then it doesn't show like who gave it to him or why he
it
even gets it.
so we watched two different. I have a feeling we watched two different things because it was his daughter that gave him the haircut.
Yeah, maybe I saw a different version because yeah, like he like poisoned her or something, and like she was like supposedly in like a catatonic state.
What the heck? No, we then you watched something different than me. Like you watched a different version than me because that did not
Yeah.
happen. So and then like the ending scene, and this is like where like it's kind of like really weird, like um because he has that locket, right?
Yeah.
And it's the one like it has his daughter in there, but then at the end, it's the cop.
The cop has a locket.
No, 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 no. It's our main character, but like instead of his daughter's picture being in the locket,
Mm-hmm.
it's the cop that he killed that we think is like the other serial or that I think is the other serial killer that he took.
Huh. Yeah, maybe I did see the extended cut.
I Yeah, I wonder. Then there must be an extended cut that like I'm because it feels like there's like scenes that you saw that like I'm missing
Mm-hmm.
because like the scene where like you set like that you're talking about like where it looks like that what you call it that our main character like where it looks like he is um what you call it because there was like that accident at the beginning, but then like he's going through like this just like was it me, and like he
Mm-hmm.
kind of like oh it was the cop that actually hit him, but that was like in the middle of the movie, like
Mm.
where it's like he like where he like we're kind of given that like he's struggling with his like memory. It's
Mm-hmm.
like wait, was it me? And so his mind is like misremembering that it was like oh it was maybe it was this guy that hit me and
Mm-hmm.
not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Right,
So
right, right. I do see that. Was there okay in the version that you saw? Was there kind of like a cutaway scene of the killer cop beating the shit out of this woman that escaped a gambling house raid?
No.
Okay. Oh God, that we did see two different ones because the one in the version that I saw, there was a scene where like this woman is running away from like this underground like gambling parlor, and she thinks like, oh, I know who the chief is, just leave me alone, and like the cop like beats the shit out of her.
No, I did not see that scene at
Like
all.
in the woman in like the she he chases her down to like a woman's bathroom, and like he just like he like he punches the crap out of her and like kills her. That's why I'm like so confused that like because like if this scene is happening independently, then it must mean that he actually is the killer. But then at the end, it tidies it kind of it wraps everything up saying that no, Pyungsu, the main character, is the killer.
Yeah, we watched two different versions then because I'm so curious now to like see what you saw.
Yeah.
This is great. I like that. I, I think we had two different very different experiences with this film.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. Like I think that makes for a fun discussion because it's like how like just like a slight difference in like a few scenes, like some additional scenes
Hmm.
that can change the whole game.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's why I do have a little bit of confusion because of that scene that I just described about the cop, killing that woman. It's like it had nothing to do with like the main character and like his like like it's not as though like he witnessed it. It was just the cop by himself, and then he kills this woman and
And see, I think that like for the sake of this movie, because the entire movie we are with our main character. We are
yes.
in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
So having that scene is a problem because like okay, so we as the audience, okay, so we're given this like extra context like to maybe build suspense in another area, but that I think that takes away from the mystery of like wait, is this like are we misremembering something? Like are we with the character misremembering something or whatever? Like and that kind of takes away from that. So that's
Yeah, that's
I would say that that is a good cut because it doesn't fit with the rest of the film, like what they're trying to do.
mhm. Right. That's I think that's where my bit of confusion is coming from because we had this definitive scene of him killing someone, so we're like, okay, yeah, he is a killer. But then at the end of the movie, it's saying like, no, he wasn't the killer. And it's like, but he's killed before.
Yeah, and I see. I still think that he is a killer,
Mm-hmm.
but because we are given evidence that he killed like the he was killing, but he knew that our main character is also a killer,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Right.
he figured that out. It's
Mm-hmm.
like okay, I'm gonna pin the people that I have killed. I'm gonna pin that on this guy because
Right.
he's losing his mind. Like what? Well, he's not even gonna fucking remember. He changed his like his whole memoir that he had been writing, to try to remember. He killed that chick from like the stupid poetry readings, like that super like pretentious bullshit like
Yeah. Yeah.
class that he was in. Oh my god, it was so
Yeah.
that dude was fucking that teacher, that
Uh-huh.
poetry teacher. He was banging all
Oh
those
yeah,
like
of course. I mean, I'm sure it was like a night class thing, so it wasn't like he was like an actual professor or whatever. So he was like banging all those fucking
oh,
cougars.
dude, all those like cougars that you would see down at like K Town, like one of those like nightclubs at night.
Yeah, the Ajimathers.
What was it? Karnak, like all those like cougars that used to
Yeah,
like.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so funny. My uncle got rejected from Karnak once.
What?
Yeah, he told me like yeah I went. It was way long time ago when it was still Karnak, but it's like for some reason like they were trying to get more like younger people, and it's like it doesn't. And my uncle like I mean yeah it's my uncle, but he doesn't look that old. And at the
Right.
time, he didn't look that old, so it's like, how the hell is he being rejected from this club? And he's like the target demographic, and like him and his buddies would have gone and like spent money.
Yeah, because that place is there. That's gone now, right? Karnak
Yeah,
doesn't.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, oh dude, like the cougars there were like, man, they were on the prowl.
yeah.
Oh my god,
I've
yeah,
only, yeah, I was never really into like the booking clubs. It's just it felt weird. Like they brought these like strange girls to us. And like, yeah, drink with us, okay. And
yeah.
like they
It's
like the girl and then the girls like didn't like want to like didn't want to get to know you. It's just like, okay, have a drink with us. All right, drink our booze and then go back to your table. And it's like, okay,
yeah. It was a weird setup. I
yeah,
was always like, this is dumb.
yeah. And I mean, and I and I've I've done the booking thing. I've done the Tommy thing. It's all weird. I don't recommend it.
Yeah. The but yeah, it's like, but like, so our cop guy like ends up like trying to like he ends up killing that girl, there, that older lady that had
Yeah, from the
been
poetry
with
class.
yeah, had been with our main character. And but it was like it was trying to pin it on this guy, like help kind of like kind of set this framework that like, oh yeah, this guy's a serial killer. He has all these bodies in this bamboo grove. And it's like, and so he had actually started planting bodies in that bamboo grove
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. He bought it specifically so he could dispose of the bodies.
Yes. um it was just kind of like happenstance that they ran into each other in that, like, near that bamboo grove. And that's kind of like sets up like the tension of the movie. So I, like I said, to me,
I don't
that,
remember that at all.
whoa, what, that's like the very beginning of the film, like where like he gets into, he is, because he's already, like, we already know that he has dementia.
Well, for me, okay, here's where we're gonna, we saw different movies, like literally, because in the beginning, it's him on the train tracks with like his new fresh cut,
Well, okay, yeah, that
and
is the,
he's like spurging out, because his killer instinct is about to emerge.
right now, you're right, that is the opening and ending scene of the film.
Yeah, okay, that's
So
where we're aligned.
yeah, so yeah, like I said, yeah, we're there. But then it's like we see him in that, like, kind of in that, I think, like in the bamboo grove, like, in like he's like, and he starts to, we don't know why he's there, but he starts to drive away, and then he gets into that car accident, or like we kind of get an idea of like him.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's weird though, because do you remember there being in the bamboo grove? Do you remember there being snow?
It was, I don't know if there was snow, but it was like foggy.
Okay, because when he gets into the car accident, there's snow on the ground.
It's possible.
But if there's snow there, but not in the bamboo grove, how is that possible? I mean, unless it's just one of those stupid like incongruity. Like what's that word when they don't match the
Yeah,
scene?
that, and that's a very possible
Yeah.
thing. Just like they're just like, uh,
Right, they're making the movie, and it's like, okay, it's like, oh, what'd be cool? Like, he's driving back. It's like, oh, what'd be really cool if it was like snow.
snow.
Yeah.
Fucking stupid. Anyways, yeah,
But
but yeah,
anyways, yeah, just generally speaking, yeah, I did like the movie. I mean,
movie's
yeah,
dope.
I definitely want to see the movie that you saw, and then yeah, you should definitely see the movie that I saw.
Yeah, I want, like I said, I think that like next time we get together, we should
Mm,
watch this film and like just like, because I feel like I missed something. Like, if
yeah, I mean,
based off this
okay,
discussion.
yeah, and I'll send you the link of the version that I saw,
Okay, all right, great.
and then yeah, we could like compare and contrast notes.
But I'm really happy you liked it. I thought, honestly, I think it's a great movie.
Oh,
It kept me on the edge of my seat.
right. And the other reason why I linked it to John Wick because I don't know if this was in your version, but there's the scene where the cop killer boyfriend comes to like make his get the blessing from the dad to marry the daughter, and then he has like this he has this plan to like kill him, like inject him full of something, and then they get into like a fight scene. Was that in your version?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was there.
Yeah, but that fight scene also kind of it was reminiscent of like John Wick CQC style fight scene.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. Like those scenes were great too. Like, it had great action. It had great drama, suspense. And like I said, yeah, and you're all in the mind of this like unreliable narrator, and you're not really sure like what is reality. And I like I said, it seems like it'd be a crazy ass movie, and it is, and to a degree, but it's still so good, and I can't recommend it enough.
Indeed.
Uh, what would be your rating for that film, Andy?
Well, initially I was gonna give it a 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing as we might have, or we for sure watched different movies, I want to hold off on the review until I see your version.
Okay. Um, if I was gonna for like my review based off like the version of it that I saw, I would have to say, it's a 4-star movie for me. Just similar like Memories of Murder, just because I think from my understanding of the film, it was about this like because it has a lot of twists and turns because of him being an unreliable narrator. He is like we know he's a serial killer that kills people who do bad things, and he hasn't killed in 17 years that we know of. And he, through unfortunate circumstances, runs into another serial killer who, and like, because like these guys, like, game recognizes game, right? And he like, it's like, hey, there's something weird here. Like, that ain't no fucking deer. And so because he has friends in the police department, he tries to inquire like, hey, do you know like this license plate number and all that stuff? And because of that, it causes the antagonist serial killer to get involved in this guy's life and try to like ruin him, so kind of cover up his tracks. And I think that's like what's so intriguing about the film. And it's like, but like in the middle of the film too, you're thinking because now this guy's getting involved and this guy's memory is like really foggy. It's like, wait a second, am I seeing this wrong? Did I not? It's like, was I doing this? Yeah, because it's like, which would be a question that a guy in this type of position would think about. And I think that's so intriguing about the film. And it's like you're investigating, but at the same time you're like you're not really sure what's going on, and it turns out that all sorts of like I said, all sorts of twists and turns. It's a great roller coaster ride. Yeah, 4 stars.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. Again, I'm withholding my review until I've seen your version.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to hearing what your review.
But based on what I saw, I would have to give it a 3.5. Yeah, I could maybe bump it up. I could come up to you to a possible 4, but only after I watch it again. But
Now,
the version that I saw, yeah, if I need to watch it again, and then maybe I could bump it up to a 4, but only after a second viewing.
would you say that did you like this as much or less than Memories of Murder?
I like this movie slightly less than Memories of Murder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, Bong Joon Ho is so good. It's like.
Yeah. I mean, but it's just like because it might have been just the version that I saw, but it was just more cohesive of a story. It was more trackable.
I agree with that. Yeah, like if I was gonna choose between the two, I would say yeah, the Memories of Murder is that's just a cool ass movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's based off of true events.
True. But anyways, all right, that's Andy finishing his homework from last week. So I think it was a good catch up.
Yeah. Indeed. All right, let's get into the topics of the day. Um, I think let's just start with like I think the biggest one, and that would be the Restrict Act, aka what or at least what I call the Patriot Act 3.0. It's pretty bad to the point where like it even skips like 2.0, it just goes to 3.
Dude, it's like, man, this is, well, because the Patriot Act, what people don't realize, the Patriot Act is still in effect. That's
Right.
how that's how they got these guys from, you can like the guys that like you were protesting in January 6th and just like walking to the Capitol. Honestly, was that maybe a smart idea? No, I don't think it was. Um, and I mean, they essentially walked into a trap. It's a trap. It's kind of like it's the yeah, it's that's what they were doing. And we talked about how you know Trump at the time probably should have pardoned these people,
Mm-hmm.
but that were being targeted or like kind of done something to help them,
Mm-hmm.
didn't do it. And anyways, we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason that they are in jail, most of them, and the way that they've been, not really been given
Yeah,
certain
given their
rights,
constitutional rights.
is because of the Patriot Act. Because when you label someone a terrorist, domestic or foreign, it was meant to deal with foreign terrorism after 9/11,
Right.
which at the time,
Or at least it was sold on the idea that it would only be going after the foreign kind of terrorists.
like Islamic terrorists. That's what it was
Yeah.
supposed. That's what it was like, kind of
Initially
catered.
pitched as. It was initially
However,
pitched as.
at I was too young at the time when this was put into put into law,
Mm-hmm.
or like kind of like where it's like it was kind of
Or
put it.
you were too young to have a say in this.
Well, but I didn't understand, like, when you actually look at the language, it doesn't talk about foreign terror. It just talks about terrorism in
In
general.
general, yes.
So in a way, it's like it's kind of is a backgate to uh, you could technically target American citizens.
Right, like you could label anyone a terrorist and be like, oh yeah, national security. These people were engaging in terrorism.
That's why, like, what really worried me is like you have these parents that are, at these
Yeah, like the recent school board kerfuffles. When people like parents are finally uh, parents were finally woken to the crap that they were pouring into their children's minds. Ironically enough, thanks to COVID and all of the distance learning stuff, the Zoom schools.
yeah.
Parents finally saw what was going on, and parents were rightly horrified. They're like, "What the fuck is this shit?" And so they begin to, voice their, opposition to what's being taught. And so, what does the government do? It's like, oh, well, these parents are being terrorists. Oh, terrorists. Oh, we should totally, Patriot Act these fools.
Well, I mean, they were having the FBI and shit spy on them,
Yeah.
and because of the Patriot Act, they were allowed to do that, and it's been rubber stamped sent for like what,
Right,
20
because it was
years.
only supposed to be effective for a certain amount of years, and then after that, it's supposed to be voted on to renew it, but every subsequent year, it's the vote gets lumped in with some like omnibus spending bill, and everyone just says like, yeah, let's we vote for this, yes, and it gets passed.
Well, I mean, this is essentially taking the Patriot Act and extending it into the digital age in a lot of ways. That's what this is. And when we talk, like the bill itself is labeled, oh, it's the TikTok bill, and we have to stop
Right.
like,
Again, they do their marketing, they do their spin. Like the parental rights and education bill, became the don't say gay bill, on and on and on.
and the reason why, like I said, I encourage people to read the language, or about this, because uh, this is important. Because yeah, it might not be you today, but guaranteed, if this is passed, it'll be you
Right.
tomorrow.
Well, because that's the tactic. Like they'll propose all like these crazy measures. They'll put it to a vote, and they're like, and because they know that all these crazy things are in it that won't get passed, right? It won't get passed, and they're like, okay, and then they'll water it down, and then put it, bring it back up again, after a couple years. Like, oh yeah, here's this new thing. No, it's totally different, and it's not as crazy as the last one. And so like because you think it's like, oh, they temper themselves so that they're restrained, but it's the same thing.
And this is where I think like what really what really needs to be passed as like some sort of like law or legislation is what I call like we need to have some sort of like simplified, bill act. Okay, like where we don't have all these fucking like riders and like omnibus packages. Your bill if you can't put it in like 20 pages or less, no, you can't add on like.
I'll do you one better. If you can't put it in 5 pages or less, then no.
Well, I see. What I don't want to have is like, oh, here's your 5 bullet point like bill. It's like
Right, but if you can't draft
no,
a substantive legislation and like with like precise, with precision and clarity, then like 20, like what's the point of doing 20 pages?
but even then, like I would say, let's put. We need to use simplified language.
Mm-hmm.
You need to like if like it's like one bill. I mean, it's like one thing. It's not you can't add on like five other things.
Or I would suggest an itemized voting procedure where like everyone goes on the record and they have to vote for each individual thing, yay or nay. So none of this
No,
like
here's the thing.
packing.
Because I'm trying to eliminate some of like the politicization that goes on with that. It's like, oh well, so and so didn't vote for this bill. It's like, what do you mean? So you want people to like not like you don't want people to stop the Chinese from spying on us? Like, yeah, that's something we should do. But I don't want like the government spying on American citizens and like kind of like violating their rights. Oh well, I guess I guess you're just a commie bastard. It's like, no, that's not what I am. Okay, it's like it's shit like that where it's like they utilize that where they use that fancy language like, oh well, this is the such and such bill. Like, oh, I guess you don't, or it's like the ban on child rape bill, right? It's like it's the anti-child rape bill, and it's like then they throw in all this other shit. It's like, well, actually, we support like child rapists, and like they're the best people in our society. It's like, no, they're not. Like, no, I'm not gonna vote for this. So you like child rape? It's like.
Well, I mean that's what I'm saying, that everyone should. I don't. Who cares if there are people like start clutching their pearls or have the vapors about someone who votes not the right way on a particular thing. It's just like other, and then also like no, it's just the vote should be like itemized. That's all.
No,
That's all I'm saying.
but here's what it should be, in my opinion. No fancy title, like catchy, like stupid catchy like acronym. Say like, okay, this is the anti this or the pro this thing, and the like it's the title is what it's actually going to be doing. You have to explain like what you are trying to get proposed in 20 pages or less. You have to use language that anybody can read. You don't have to be some sort of like lawyer that knows, like
and
some
no
sort
Black's like law dictionary either.
Yeah, I don't need to like have some. I don't need to have five
common vernacular and common use.
Because it's because the American people have a right to look at these bills, right? Like, so they need to be able to read it and understand what, like, check the work of their employees, because we are the employers, which people seem to forget. We are the employers. They are the employees. The government are our employees. We have the ability. We should have the ability to be able to check their work. What is my representative that I voted for? What is he actually doing? He's voting for this stuff? No, that's not what I voted him. That's not what I hired him for. That's not part of the
Right. It's like hiring a pastry chef who doesn't make pastries.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fucking retarded. He's like you have an event or whatever. You want you hire this person to make a cake. But they don't make it. But they're like, oh, I'm not that kind of pastry chef. It's like, what other kind is there?
And see, here's the other thing. We've been like the majority of people. You and I are different, but like I would, and I think people are starting to wake up to this a little bit. That we keep thinking that the government and the people that are in the government are better than us. They're greater than us. It's like, no, they're not.
No, they're not.
They're our employees. Sure, do we have some smart employees? Yeah, we do actually. Like, I'm not saying that they're dumb. In fact, a lot of these guys are very cunning and shrewd, and that's it's like, but like, they're too shrewd for their own good, and they have clutched like power, to the nth degree, and they have taken, and that's why I think we need to have some sort of law enacted to help the American people to realize, like, hey, wait a second, that's not what I voted this guy to do. Why is he voting yes on this thing about, like, something that, like, is gonna damage the country? And I think a lot of people would wake up. It's like, well, no, I don't want to have the government spying on me. I don't want to have, like, this, them giving them the power to do this over me, like that supersedes, like, the actual constitution, my constitutional rights. And yeah, if you can't propose your thing in 20 pages or less, that's something that can be read within, like, a day, then no.
Yeah, I mean, the system that we have is clearly. Oh, I mean, I don't mean like generally or overall, but the system of, like, voting for like bills and things like that, it has to be tweaked. You know.
Like, majorly tweaked.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Yeah,
see,
I mean, because like, what is it? Like, what was the last thing? Like, the Democrats try to, like, rush through. What it was like 17, like it was like 17,000 pages, and then like they dropped it like 3 hours before the vote. And they're like, oh yeah, read it, hurry up, and like let's vote.
yeah, no one's gonna, like, even, like, was it Johnny Five from Short Circuit couldn't read that fucking thing in that amount of time.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
so how is even if you had like 1,000 monkeys, like, reading 1,000 pages at
Yeah,
like, they wouldn't be able to do it.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you. Yeah, like, I mean, I'm gonna. Yeah, if your congressman had 1,000 interns, and they had 1,000 hours, they wouldn't be able to read
Yeah,
all that in time and condense it in like something that you could bring to the floor. Not a chance. And especially not within 3 hours. That's fucking ridiculous.
yeah. It's just, it's
It's
seven.
just it just shows you bad faith on the other side. You know, because they're clearly trying to get something over on the American people, not just not just Republican constituents, but also Democrat constituents as well.
Yeah.
So
Well, and it's like, because
don't think that don't think that just because your representative isn't of the same political party that you are, that they that, oh, like, I could
they're for
totally
you.
trust them. No, you cannot. That's fucking retarded. All right. I'm not a Democrat or Republican, but I agree more with Republican principles, but I wouldn't say that fucking who's
Like
that
Mitch
fucking
McConnell is not for
yeah,
me.
Mitch McConnell's not my guy. It's
Lindsey
fucking
Graham is not for me.
Lindsey Graham's not my guy. God, who's that Mormon asshole?
Oh,
Mitt Romney.
Mitt
Mitt
Romney.
Romney's not my guy.
No, he's not. What you're telling me is you're a Liz Cheney guy, right?
Oh yeah, of course, obviously. Yeah, bomb them sand niggers.
God, the 17,000 pages for a bill. I mean, that's maybe like half the size of a Barack Obama memoir.
Yeah. What was that book that he put out? Like Dreams of My Father or whatever.
Do you know how many do you know how many books he's written about himself? I think he's up to like number 6.
Mm.
It's like, come on, bro. Like, you're not
So you're
that.
not that important, all right? And you're a fucking half breed, all right? You're not full black.
And honestly, like the Dinesh D'Souza does a really good breakdown of his memories of his father, and like how that's like that tells you everything you need to know about this guy, and like why he's a bad like politician, how he's like actually really really terrible.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean,
it's like
literally, he literally plucked him from obscurity. Like, no one knew who Barack Obama was in 2008.
no.
No one knew who this guy was. He just appeared, and like it's
For like
because of that, and it's because of that other Illinois senator fucked up so bad that he had to resign because he was actually the one slated for the nomination.
yeah, that's right. And like he had been like a senator for like 2 seconds before he was like, and like that speech that he supposedly it gave at like the Democratic National Convention, whatever. It's like, oh, like the clapping seals were like, oh, he's so great, and it's like
Yeah.
the speech.
Dude, Joe Biden knew. Joe Biden knew. Had his number from the beginning. You know, remember that soundbite of him saying like, "Oh yeah, he's so handsome and well spoken. Not like the others." Basically, it's like, wow, an articulate black man.
Yeah.
You don't see that every day.
Joe Biden, man. Oh my god. I mean, just the guy's been sticking his foot in his mouth for like the last 150 years. Like it's like,
right, yeah. He was there at the original. He was there at the signing.
yeah,
and yet still did nothing about the Second Amendment. Go figure.
Jesus. It's like, no, I want to keep my slavery. God damn it!
I know. Right? Yeah. All you people, all you anti-gunners, like, yeah, Joe Biden was there at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. He did nothing about the Second Amendment.
By the time his presidency is done, hopefully within like the next year or so, but God forbid if like it's another 4 years after this, like yeah, it's like I was a senator for 150 years, 150 years ago. It's like I was at the founding 200 years ago. It's like that's what it's gonna end up being. It's like Jesus God, like, and yet
it's like, people like, oh yeah, I was there at creation.
I'm God.
It's going there. It's like, yeah, I was just palling around with Jesus. Like, what'd be really cool if there were, some of these lower life forms. I don't know, human beings, we'll call them. I don't know. And sure enough, God said, like, hey, Joe, that's a good idea.
I was on the cross, guys. Come on. But yeah, we need something simplified because like thing is like I am well read. I have a good vocabulary, but I am not going to slog through 17,000 pages of fucking like bullshit
legalese. Yeah.
Just like or it's like, all right, like when I hear like a bill like those omnibus bills, it's like I just know I'm gonna get fucked because we just need to vote for it and then we'll figure out what's in it. It's like, no, that is not what you should be doing.
Yeah. Then old Nancy Pelosi. It's like, oh well, first you have to vote on it, then we'll tell you what's in it.
That is their mindset. That is what they're trying to do, and we just like our side of the aisle, people who actually care about this country is like, okay, and they vote for it. It's like, stop it! Stop voting for this shit. It's like, and like, our God forbid, like when we actually have a president who like doesn't have his like head stuck up his ass, and then they don't veto that shit.
No.
It's like this is why we need like a Calvin Coolidge. Like, no, you're gonna take that back to the fucking drawing room floor, cut that in about like 1,000 pieces, and let's start over again. It's like we should not be doing this, because I guarantee that like because obviously we had the Bill of Rights, but what we I actually want to know, like, based on it's probably gonna be pretty easy to figure out, like, the first like bills that were proposed, they weren't 17,000 pages. I bet you they were like 3 or 4 pages, and they were pretty straightforward. I imagine.
Yeah, even even back in the day with old timey vocabulary, I'm pretty sure they were straightforward.
You would think that like something like the Declaration of Independence would be like 100 pages. It's one fucking page.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff, but it's totally comprehensible to the common person. A person even from now, 2023, they could read the Declaration of Independence and fully comprehend what it's saying.
And a lot of these guys were lawyers too.
Yeah, surprisingly enough.
So you don't need a bunch of bullshit like filler
legalese.
Yeah, you don't need to do that. It's well, I want to use my Yale law degree to really.
The party of the first party in this particular instance is the party of the fifth party and the party of the eighth party. Like what?
Yeah, it's stupid, and so we.
I mean, I'm only consoled in the fact that this thing hasn't gone out of committee. So it's scary, and we should, ever vigilant is the motto. But this thing hasn't gone out of committee, and also, no way this gets past the Republican Congress. So.
Oh God, I mean, it's like that's the one hope I have. But honestly,
that's the only saving grace of this entire fiasco, is that it's still in committee, and that as long as it doesn't come out, after a shift in composition of the Congress, then or the House of Representatives, then we'll be fine.
Hopefully we have enough smart people. It's like, yeah, this looks good. It's like, if that happens, we're fucked.
Yeah, and I think a smart way of getting even, maybe not the like leftist types, but the ones that are like the classical liberals or whatever, is putting the fear of God into them, and just appealing to their fear. It's like, oh well, imagine if Trump got in and like he was able to use his power against you.
Well, hell, like it was the classical liberals who were so against the Patriot Act back in the day. A lot of people didn't like it, and now I'm looking at it, it's like, yeah, they were right, and it's like, I mean, like I said, I was too young at the time, so and obviously I had no voting power in 2002 or whenever the fuck that came about.
I did, but I was a moron.
Like I said, because you were.
I just it was like if it came after 2002, and I think it did.
Was it 2003?
Yeah, it was probably like 3, 4 4 at the very at the earliest, or at the latest.
I think I think I was like 16 or 17 when that.
Yeah, I was out of high school. I was 18, 19 years old, but I was a moron. So my vote would have effectively been useful for for the wrong reasons.
Hey, it's like that they've been suckering young people for forever. Like that's why. Our schools don't actually teach us anything that
right, but we can vote for politicians, but we can't drink a beer.
Yeah, well, we can die in
At
their
18. At 18, it used to be 18, folks. Don't let no one tell you any different.
We can certainly die in their wars.
Yeah, die in their wars at 18, but you can't
God
have a
forbid
beer.
beer. Bullshit.
Yeah. So yes. So people, be vigilant. Make sure that fucking this type of legislation never sees the light of day. Kill it in the crib, as it were. I mean,
You just know that it's gonna come back and like
yeah.
from like
Yeah, and again, they're gonna dress it up in more flowery language and make it seem not as bad, but it's gonna be the same thing.
yeah.
Don't be fooled by these people. All right, don't even be fooled by the people who say like, you know, that we could let this one go, or even even though I'm saying that it's it hasn't even left committee yet, like be vigilant. Okay, that is the price for liberty. Vigilance.
One thing I will say that this is gonna be the only thing I give to her credit, and this is also like why it was like they keep trying to like prop it up, but like most normal people like laughed it into like obscurity. Is the Green New Deal that AOC proposed?
Mm-hmm.
That was simple. If you think about it, it
Yeah,
was
what
like
was it, like
pages.
8 pages?
Yeah, like 5 to 8 pages,
Mm-hmm.
and it was pretty straightforward. And we saw it
Mm-hmm.
was like, yeah, this is fucking stupid, and nobody voted for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's what it should be. That's exactly what it should be. So I applaud her for doing what I'm asking for our representatives. Propose simple things. There was no like. I mean, and even in those 8 pages, she tried to tack on extra bullshit that like, what does this have to do with like the environment? Like, it because there was even like things about like, and we need to make sure that like the minorities have this and that. It's like, what does that have to do with the environment? That, like I said, even in those 8 pages, she couldn't
Right.
like,
We have to make sure that the migrants can't smell the cow farts.
yeah, it's like, it's just like, but I'll give her credit. It was simple. It's like
Yeah.
it had a stupid
Yeah. I
title.
mean, yeah. Some might call it sophomore, but
It had a stupid title. We need to get rid of those.
I know.
Uh, it did tack on a whole bunch of other stuff, but it was short, so you could easily digest it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 10 bullet points.
Indeed.
But anyways, that's all I have to say about that. Just we, I would say, talk to your representatives. Pepper them with like, annoy the fuck out of them to help them to like, hey, stop voting for this like these bills that are 1,000 pages, 17,000 pages. Stop it. Propose. Let's work on something to propose simple legislation so that the American people are able to digest it. That you as our employer can like be able to read it within like an hour or 2 hours, so that you can vote on it properly. Not only like read it, but like understand it and
Mm-hmm.
vote on it properly.
Right. Common vernacular, common speech. No legalese.
Exactly.
All right. That was our first topic. Let's move into the second topic. And this is more you, so why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I was actually listening to a really interesting. This is more fun than what we just talked about, but I was listening to an interesting discussion about, um, with when it comes to film and like how I guess it's like like when we look at like the Rotten Tomatoes scores, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have like, oh, like some of these films, like some people look as like, oh well, the critic score is super high, it's like 100%. And then you have look at the audience score, it's like 5%. It's like, okay, well, um that film probably sucks monkey butt. And then you look at like the audience score, like another film, the audience score is like really high, whereas the critic score is like, it's no good. And it's like, well, did they hate it just because it's popular, or is it really bad? And there's this like kind of like weird dichotomy, like where is it, because we hear the stuff of like the toxic fandom, and then you also have the other side where like, oh, like you have like the snooty, stuck up, like woke critics and stuff like that. And do you, when it comes to like film, like do you think that uh, do you see like where like fans can sometimes be a problem, or like where the critics are the problem? Does it affect you as a movie goer or a movie viewer? Like, do you really like do you care about any of that shit?
Um, I don't think it's the fans. Um, like the whole idea of toxic fandom or whatever. Um, I see it as people that give a shit. Um, and um, not to be like stodgy and be like, oh, if you weren't there from the beginning, then you can't be a part of this this community or whatever. But it's more of just kind of like respect. Um, it's very that the idea of respect is very prominent in a lot of East Asian cultures. Particularly Korean. Of course, I'm speaking about my own upbringing within a Korean culture, and respect is super important. Um, like you don't just walk into somebody's house. And then when you walk in, immediately greet them. With honorifics. And also take off your shoes and things like that. And and this is in generally speaking, I think this is kind of uh, you know I think hospitality is a concept that is a better concept. I think people could more easily identify with, but it's hospitality. And you can't come into a fandom or whatever and be like, kind of be the obnoxious guest.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't necessarily think it's fandoms that are toxic. I think it's just it's yeah, come and be part of our the fandom or be part of the community, but don't be obnoxious. Don't be like, oh, I thought this was that one movie where Luke Skywalker found out that Han Solo was his brother and blah blah blah. It's like, stop. You know, like do your homework. And just and ask questions about it. Don't just like don't be just again, don't be that obnoxious guest.
Yeah, because I look at like us and like like am I like I'm not a professional movie critic, or at least I wouldn't consider myself one. And I look at like other guys that I listen to who you know maybe look up to is like the wrong thing, but it's like I say I have a
you
long way
you
to go.
have a professional longing.
Yeah, like like I said, I
You
care
you would like you eventually like to be in like regarded in the same kind of breath
in
as
that same
those
realm, but
people.
I know I'm nowhere near those people, and that's fine. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said, but I still care about the medium,
Mm-hmm.
and and most I would say like the most times when it comes to film, like I don't I don't know how to make a film. I don't have that bent.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so it's like people who like go out there and they make films, whether they be good or bad, it's like, hey, you've done something I haven't done, so that's something. And most time, like I would say like that most of our reviews, like I'm usually fairly positive. When it comes to it's like I try to find the good in it. Like, was I entertained? That's usually the question I ask myself. Was I entertained? Most of the time I would say yes. And outside of maybe like I can probably count on like both hands the movies that we've reviewed that I was like, you know what, I didn't like this. American Beauty, I ended up realizing I didn't really like that movie. Leaving Las Vegas, I didn't really like that movie. Cop Out, I fucking hate that movie. It's like,
Really? I thought you loved it.
Wild Wild West, I really hate that movie. It's like, so I mean, it's for you, it'd be like Wizard of the Clown and the Christmas Circus. You really love that movie, right, Andy? Yes.
Oh, you know it.
Although we didn't officially review that film,
Yes.
like I would have loved, but
yeah, this is our Budapest. This is our Budapest.
But
those of you who don't get the reference, it's a thing. It's also a thing in writing where like two characters will bring up something, but like in a certain context, and like it'll never be expounded upon, but it just like it just becomes like the kind of running gag.
But yeah, it's Andy because I in our movie going like behind the scenes, like sometimes I'll make Andy watch. It's like, Andy, this is a really great film. Like you're gonna laugh your ass off. And then I showed him this. He's like, he left afterward. I think he went home afterwards. He was so mad that I made him watch this fucking movie. It was so it is not good. It is one of the most cringe-worthy fucking things I've ever seen. And thank God that we had the Mystery Science Theater 3000 folks to help us out with that, because otherwise it would be fucking unwatchable. But it was fun for me. I was entertained. I was entertained watching you.
Yeah, because you're a sadist. For those of you who didn't know, Robert's a sadist.
Yeah, well, that's true. I guess I belong in like the Hellraiser franchise.
But he's also a masochist too, because he punishes himself.
I do punish myself. I decided when we did our Justice League review for the Snyder Cut, I watched the entire DC universe leading up to that review.
Sure did.
Let me tell you, that was rough. But yeah, like I said,
it was.
But I don't consider myself like one of like the great reviewers. It's like I am a student of film. I want to know more about it. I want to know about like the actors and like the behind the scenes stuff. I do enjoy that. But then I also think like a lot when it comes to, especially when it comes to like the award season, right? And like the films that are recognized, it's like, oh, this is like the best film of the year. But then I can't name you within like the last like 20 years what the best film of the year is. I can tell you the films that have stood the test of time, and like like what films like the people constantly go back to as like the film that they like, like this is the greatest thing ever, like it's a classic. And it's like the film that was like the film of the year, like, or whatever, won like this award or that award. It's like, yeah, no one gives a shit about that. It's like what I'm trying to think of, like I the last movie I can think of that was like it was the box office draw of the year, like I think it made the most money that year, was like Gladiator. And did Gladiator win Best Picture that year? I think it did.
I think that, well, because all I can remember is that clip of Liz Taylor announcing Gladiator, but I think that was a Golden Globe.
Was it a Golden Globe? Maybe you're right. But anyway, but that was like the last...
Gladiator won a shit ton of awards.
Right. And that also like earned the most money, like because people kept going back and watching it, despite even though it was like a 3-hour plus movie. It's great. It was, and Ridley Scott keeps trying to reinvent that film.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he cannot let go of Gladiator. He can't get past Gladiator.
uh, can't forget Alien, and he can't forget Gladiator. You know, it's like
Yeah.
his two big hits.
Yeah, exactly. He just can't get past it. That's why what is it? When he made that Robin Hood movie, it felt very
Which
much
is a
like.
good movie. I like the
I
movie.
mean,
It's
despite the fact that he cast Russell Crowe in the titular role, um, uh, yeah, he just for some a lot of people couldn't help but make comparisons to like Gladiator. It's like, dude, this is
it's like
Gladiator, but in medieval England.
and it was still a good movie. I loved it. I had a ton of fun. I'm probably gonna rewatch that pretty soon actually. And it's the
Okay.
same thing with like Alien. Like, you know, he made Prometheus, which is a good movie. I actually like Prometheus.
I mean, I like it more than Covenant.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's better than Covenant. I think that he had a direction he was going with Prometheus, and then it was not received super well. But he was already working on the second film, and they made a bunch of changes. That's my guess.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you know, you sometimes get these critics who are like super snooty. It's like, well, this is no Citizen Kane, or you know, it's like, you know, and this film like really it's for the lowest common denominator. You know, it's like that snooty like like New Yorker magazine style like
Mm-hmm.
review. It's like hey, you know.
Right. It's like, I'd be more apathetic if I wasn't so lethargic. Like, can I get a copy of Jugs?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, come on, like you don't have to be such a pretentious dick.
Right. But I think the old guard is kind of dead. But now we have to contend with like these new critics who are basically shills, and they pull punches, because they don't want to lose access. Um,
That is one of the big points that was brought up in this discussion. I was like, yeah, it's like, so I'm like, they don't want to the papers or whatever. It's like, well,
yeah, the
if I say
trades.
like if I say something like somewhat like mean about like one scene in the movie, you know, I'm not going to be able to like talk to such and such actor or director because they're going to hate me. It's like, that's your fucking job.
Yeah, I mean, just think back on all the crap that, particularly Disney Marvel, has been putting out, and like all the feigning, the fawning, the reviews for it. It's like, oh my gosh, the best thing, to come out of Disney in years, or Marvel in years, or da da da. It's like, like Ant-Man and the Wasp, like the most recent one. That was kind of a crap movie.
Quantumania.
Yeah, yeah, it was a crap movie. I mean, don't get me wrong. I
I
was
hate
I was
it.
entertained, but it shouldn't have gotten like the accolades that it gotten. Like, oh,
No,
like
there like it's not like it's not the best Ant Man for sure. Like it's the worst Ant Man of all three.
it's the worst Ant-Man and the worst thing to come out after phase 4, phase 3. I don't even know what phase they are in
That
anymore.
that is Thor: Love and Thunder, my friend. That movie.
Oh well, well then I can't say it because I never saw Love and Thunder.
No, dude, that movie, Thor: Love and Thunder, is the like, you know how you hate like the Last Jedi.
Hmm.
That's how much I hate Thor: Love and Thunder. That movie fucking sucks.
Right. I mean, it's just, and again, it's the same thing. Like when Last Jedi came out, and all the reviewers were saying like, "Oh, this is the best movie, Star Wars we had in years since the prequels," and it's like, you're wrong.
That movie, like, see, I was intrigued by Force Awakens. I was like, there was things there. I was like, okay, I kind of like where, like, I like some of the things that they're doing. I'm interested. And then they come out with the Last Jedi. It's like, wow, you completely took a dump on like all the interesting things that you brought in Force Awakens, and you threw that shit in the garbage, and then you shit on that garbage can. Like
Right.
that's what happened.
And then you then you lit it on fire,
Yeah,
and
and
then spit on it.
yeah. That's
But
what Thor:
yeah,
Love and That's
yeah.
what Thor:
Did
Love
you
and
know at the end of Force Awakens, Rey was supposed to come up on to Luke Skywalker, and he was like supposed to be deep in meditation with like rocks floating around him.
would have been
So
better.
which meant like he didn't cut himself off from the Force.
Exactly. But
You know,
that's
yeah, and then like it was supposed to, and it was supposed to be a proper, mentor-student relationship between those two. Instead of, the amazing Wonder Ray who knew everything and, can do everything better than, the Grand Master of the Jedi Order, Luke Skywalker.
I'm not gonna get into that because it's just gonna
I
make
know.
me.
I mean,
But
I think I'm past the initial rage. I mean, unless someone comes in like a jackass and like, "Oh my God, Last Jedi is the best movie ever," and just like fawns over it like stupidly, then
I, I
then I'll go into DefCon 1.
now see, I I wouldn't go that direction because I was like, okay, not because I want to be not to be like a mean guy. It's like, okay, what about the film did you like? Because obviously, like, I hate it, but you clearly like it. So I want to know what about it made you like interested, and like why are you interested in it? Like it's just I'm actually curious because I think the movie's garbage. But like I'm always like if there's a like a
Are you
really
talking about a hypothetical person?
yes, a hypothetical
Okay,
person
hypothetical person.
because
Yeah,
I
because I'm sure, I know for sure you're not talking about me. Because
oh,
I did not fucking like this movie. I hate this movie. I wish this movie could be unmade.
yeah, it's like when a movie is really bad, but then like because here's the thing, there are movies that are bad that I like. I know that like
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
like
You have a taste for that.
Galaxina to me, yes, it's not a good movie, but I like it. I really do. I find pleasure in watching Galaxina. Uh, you, however, did not like Galaxina. It's okay. Um,
Yeah, I mean, but I didn't hate it as much as I hate fucking Wizzo the Clown.
I found I did find joy in that movie. Maybe it was like your torture of it, like that that made me happy.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that it was better than Wizzo. Yeah, that's the nicest thing I can say about it.
Have you seen Birdemic, Andy?
Yeah, you showed me Birdemic.
That's right. Yeah. Did you hate Birdemic?
I didn't hate Birdemic, but I kind of regret watching it.
That is actually that is probably the best review Birdemic has ever got.
Yeah, I didn't hate it, but I regret watching it.
Oh. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
but it's there's no more integrity, in movie critics. Even
I
I mean, even just the integrity of websites like Rotten Tomatoes, who you thought that was impartial, or there it was actually being reviewed by fans or whatever. But we all know that's not true. We all know that's bought off.
yeah.
Warner Brothers like owns like part of it. So any Warner Brothers films that gets like a good rating on it, you immediately have to be suspicious of.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of goes back to where I'll listen to certain like podcasts about like that do like movie reviews. I mean obviously we do that, but we have our friends at A Cut Above, or there's quite a few other ones that I listen to, and I might not always agree with them, but it's like I would respect. I tend to respect their reviews a hell of a lot more because I know that they are, uh, they're not the snooty bullshits, critics that like have been bought off in a lot of ways, and they're not like the weirdo like fans that are also kind of sort of critics at the same time who in reality it's like movie good, yeah, I like movie, you know, it's like, or it's like that's not a review, guy. All right, you know, it's like because there is that element too, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, um, that's you know, like, what about the movie did you like? It's like I saw a movie. You know, it's like okay, you know, it's like clearly you don't know what you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and but there's that you know, kind of similar like how a lot of like you know the mainstream media has kind of like been so you know vulture, you know, it's been kind of like carved out and like kind of like hollowed out and like it's kind of like a husk of like what it actually was.
Yeah, of its former self.
Yeah, but um you know that's kind of like what's happening in like the mainstream movie reviews, right?
Uh-huh.
And so you have to go to like the more like the modern thing, like what you we see on like YouTube and like you know and on some of these podcasts, and it's like they're actually doing the real work. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, they're breaking it down in a way that no one else is doing it, and it's like that's what I think people want. Like they, because there's sometimes like where I, because you know, sometimes it's hard. Like I can't watch you know every movie that's ever come out. Like I will always be chasing that dragon. Like there's no way I'll see every movie that's ever been produced. It's just not gonna. It's never
Yeah,
gonna
it's
happen.
not feasible.
Not feasible. So a lot of times, like I'm like, oh hey, this podcast that I like, they're doing this movie this week, and it's like, and sometimes like I've never heard of this film, and I'll listen to them. It's like, you know what, that movie sounds like a lot of fun. Let me check that out, or because that they're doing it, it's like, you know what, let me watch this film, so that way I can kind of follow along with their review because I do
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes too. It's like, oh, that's okay. I like or it's like sometimes like I don't like this film, but then I'll listen to the podcast and it's like they'll tell like why they like it. It's like let me go back and watch that. Maybe I missed something, or vice versa. Like you know, I really liked it. And it's like then they end up shitting all over it. It's like, wait, did I miss something there? Like, is it really bad? Or it's like, nah, I like that. It was pretty fun, but it was. I think that's kind of like the new wave of things, where you have to look if you are a fan, but you also like, especially like you know what we do, you know we're fans, but we're also now looking at movies in a more of a critical lens.
Yeah.
But I think we do it in a very objective way,
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
and so yeah, like I would encourage people to maybe move away from some like the mainstream stuff and you know find your own way. uh you know, let's say like maybe you're only into like okay, you like action movies and that's all you're into. Well, there's 100 million action films that you can watch and review, like so you can stick in that, you can be in that genre and critique it in a way. Like you know, horror is another one that you can like, you could be just in that genre and do that. You and I, we try to like tackle what we, you know, we're trying to I would say that we explore film. You know, we're going through different genres, different eras, and we're trying to discover you know, film. Like sometimes like you and I have both not seen the film and it's like we're discovering it together, or we are trying to, or I've seen something that like I want people to see, or vice versa. And it's like, and sometimes we want to, it's a classic film that not a lot of people know too much about, and so we want people to see it along with us. Like, hey, don't forget about like this film. This film's important. It's a good film. It did not do well in its time, but it has inspired you know other films that you enjoy, and it's an important piece in cinema history. So yeah, I like I said, I think that what we do is really important. You know, we're not just choosing like you know the mainstream films. Like yeah, we could choose Terminator 2, or we could choose like or like whatever like super popular film that's going on right now, or like whatever like we could just go down the list of the AFI top 100 films and go through that. And we certainly touched on some of those, but we haven't like restricted ourselves to that list. Like to like, oh, we're only going to look at the absolute greatest films.
Indeed.
So yeah, like are there bad fans? Sure. But are there bad critics too? Absolutely. And yes, and the other thing that like really pisses like me off is, and I applaud things when they fail when this happens, is like I said, a movie could be like bad, or like a series, like a TV series could be bad, and let's say like it's a franchise or something that I like, I was like, oh, I'll give it a chance. But when the people in that, like, where they start to attack the fans like right from the get go before episode one drops, because like some of the trailers and stuff like that, it's like where fans are like, you know, this is a franchise or this is a property that I like, and I'm a little concerned that like doesn't look like the costumes like match up. It's like, are you trying to do something? And they ask like questions, and they're like concerned like this doesn't look right, or like are you trying to do something a little bit like, are you doing like a alternative view that you want to do with that? It's like, oh, how dare you notice that? Like you're just a fucking incel or whatever dumb bullshit. It's like it's just because I'm a woman. You don't want me to. It's like, that's not what I'm talking about. It's like, and it's like when that happens, I'm like, I have checked out. Like I don't want anything to do with it, and I'm happy when those things fail. Like I refuse to watch Captain Marvel. I just, because of that very thing.
Indeed. Yeah, no, and that type of uh, and that type of marketing tactic is now becoming the norm. Where they intentionally, even if the movie isn't like that necessarily, or that overt, they'll lean into it, and then anyone who comes out, they're basically kicking the hornet's nest.
Yeah, it's like they wanna
Yeah, because they figure that drumming up negative press is equally as valid as drumming up positive press. And
yeah,
so yeah, they'll say that, oh yeah, this movie is all really a step forward for women's representation in movies and everything. And it's like everyone's like collectively rolling their eyes, and and that's like kind of like the more mid-level expressions of disdain or whatever. And then but then of course, I do acknowledge that there are those that go out and like full force and like, oh, this is utter garbage, and I'm never gonna watch another movie from your studio again, and blah blah blah. I completely grant both those things could be true at once.
yeah, and like I said, it comes from both sides. But like I said, I that's where I like, you know what, you have to, as fans, we have to like kind of or people who are actually serious about like the medium, is let's come at it like in a somewhat objective way. I mean, you're never going to be fully objective, but let's fuck those people. Like, steer away from the controversy. It's like, let's just look at stuff and like let's have fun doing something that we enjoy. If the movie sucks, like, hey, it sucks, big deal. Like, okay, whatever, and we can have fun, kind of like making fun of it. Like the conversation is fun to like make fun of it, or if the movie's good, it's like, hey, this is a great classic. Or like I said, you and I, we are somewhat, and sometimes we're discovering new films and like kind of talking about them. It's like, hey, don't sleep on this. It didn't do well in its time, but it's something that should be looked at. Like I said, the film that we're going to be talking about today for the theme, The Trouble with Harry, I would say it's a forgotten Hitchcock film.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it actually did not do well initially, but over time, it actually ended up doing very well.
Indeed. So don't be a shill, and then don't also play into the fan baiting.
Yeah,
as it were.
There's definitely and there's actually a lot of like weird channels and stuff like that they do that. It's like, oh, this is so terrible, and the controversy. And it's like, well, and because there were like certain movies that like in Thor: Love and Thunder, a movie that I really fucking hate. The controversy was like, oh, they're trying to make Chris Pratt's character from Guardians of the Galaxy like this weird gay lover thing. It's like, okay, that was like 5 seconds of the movie. That was not what was going on. The movie is
really they try to make Chris Pratt's character. They try to
no,
make Star Wars.
so
I know they try to do that in the comics, but there's no way they would just upend the character like that and turn him gay willy nilly.
That was the controversy, like when the trailers came out, and they're like, oh, they're trying to make it like this. It's like, and when you watch the movie, it's like, no, that is not what's going on. That was like literally like 4 seconds of the movie. The movie is terrible all on its own. It doesn't need any help from like your trailer reaction. God, I'm so tired. I hate trailer reactions. It's like, let's stop it. It's like, stop the fucking trailer reactions. I hate it. It's like, just I a lot of time the only thing I was like, the only thing that trailers will do for me is like, oh, that looks interesting. Let me check that. That looks like something I would like to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Or that is not interesting. I have no interest in that. But I'm not like. But even when it comes to like movies that I know I'm gonna like, it was like, ooh, we gotta parse out like the trailer. It's like, in fact, like when I know it's a movie that I'm gonna watch anyways, I avoid all trailers because like I don't want anything spoiled. I don't want I don't understand like why everyone wants to have like a movie spoiled for them like before it even starts. So it's like I sometimes like talk to my wife about that. It's like, well, what's this? What's the point of this movie? It's like, what's going on? It's like, that's why we watch the movie, so that like we will figure this out. I don't know yet because like we're
Who's
at the
that guy? What do you say? What do you say when I say? What do you say?
We are 2 minutes into the movie. If we haven't, we're not gonna figure out right now. Like, just let's watch the film, and then we'll go.
I know. I heard about this movie. It turns out the code was a nursery rhyme he used to tell his daughter when she was a kid.
Yeah. Oh, no one cares about your goddamn theories, Homer.
It's pretty obvious when you think about it.
Boo. Fucking A. God. I love it when you do the Simpsons reference. That's the best part.
I do them pretty well.
That is my wife, by the way. She is.
I know. Say, who's that guy? What did he say? What did he say when I said, what did he say?
We have not gotten to that episode yet in The Simpsons.
Oh, no?
So I'm looking forward to it. Is like when we do watch that episode, I'm like, that's you, honey. That's you.
That's the one where he starts managing that waitress chick. Right? That's the one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
God. Oh my
Lurleen
Lumpkin.
Lumpkin, that's right. There you go.
Voiced by what was that? Oh, fuck. Beverly D'Angelo, I think.
Oh, really?
It was, yeah, I think it was Beverly D'Angelo that did the voice for Lurleen.
Mm.
I could be wrong, but I think that was her.
Anything else?
No, I think
this topic.
I think we should get into The Trouble with Harry.
All right. All right. That'll bring us to the movie review. for tonight. Again, The Trouble with Harry, starring John Forsythe, Shirley MacLaine, Edwin Gwynn, Jerry Mathers, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. A day before our birthday in 1955 was the release date.
October 3rd?
October 3rd.
All right.
Okay, let me hit everyone with the synopsis and we'll get going. When a local man's corpse appears on a nearby hillside, no one is quite sure what happened to him. Many of the town's residents secretly wonder if they are responsible, including the man's ex-wife, Jennifer, and Captain Albert Wiles, a retired seaman who was hunting in the woods where the body was found. As the no-nonsense sheriff gets involved and local artist Sam Marlowe offers his help, the community slowly unravels the mystery.
Nothing like a dead body to bring a town together, right?
Right?
So one this is the first film where famed composer Bernard Herrmann and Alfred Hitchcock came together. This is the first film they did together, and they worked together quite a bit throughout Hitchcock's career. Bernard Herrmann, we've talked about him a lot before. His first film was Citizen Kane, and he worked through Taxi Driver. That was his last film. This is Shirley MacLaine's first film, and this is, I think, the only comedy that Alfred Hitchcock did. But what did you think about the film?
I thought it was a pretty okay movie. Not great. As you said, this is, if not his only, but one of Hitchcock's attempts at comedy. I don't know how I feel about it, or at least if in some ways, I wouldn't be surprised if this is where the Coen brothers got their inspiration to do like their kind of off-kilter sort of comedy.
That's actually that's a possibility, because the callous nature of the way Harry, because Harry is the dead body.
Yeah.
The child Harry. And it's almost like, oh, fucking Harry. It's
he just seems more of an inconvenience than anything.
Yeah. And it's like this town is already kind of like a small town. Like, they all know each other.
Right.
But they finally get to know each other because of this dead body. And they think like, oh crap, I killed this guy. It's like, could you not tell anybody? And it's like, oh, it's okay. You have Edmund Gwynn's character, the captain, who thinks that he shot Harry to death. And it's like, oh, and he's trying to kind of dump the evidence and bury the body. But then all these people keep coming towards the body. It's you have the one dude who literally Mr. Magoo, who's reading his book like this, da 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 da, and he trips over the body how many times in the film? 3 times. What the fuck?
At the least twice.
Yeah. You have all these people that keep coming up to the body, and it's like, oh, it's almost nonchalant, and that was the joke that Hitchcock wanted to show. It's he wasn't trying to make a comment on anything. It was just more of wouldn't it be funny if this dead body just shows up and it's almost like nobody gives a shit, and this is kind of the reason why the movie didn't initially do well in America, because we tend not to view things like that very well. We don't
treat death so haphazardly.
Right. So when the movie went over to Europe, like especially France, it fucking went gang. I mean,
It did
was a
gangbusters.
it was a huge fucking hit.
Mm-hmm.
And now, when the studio saw that, they ended up re-releasing it again in America, and that's like when it made its money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, okay, well, if the rest of the world thought it was funny, like maybe it is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, like, this movie probably, like I said, inspired the Coen Brothers. Probably is the reason why we have Weekend at Bernie's. It's kind of
And, yeah, and if you watch this movie, it feels like they should be talking with like British accents. It's like the real like the kind of callousness that they treat like this dead person more of like a nuisance. It's like oh
yeah.
Captain Wild, like it's like, oh whatever shall we do? It's like
You in fact you put two couples together. You have like the captain and like the lady, like, and then you have Shirley MacLaine's character and
John Forsythe.
John Forsythe. Like they end up getting together,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like the whole town like rallies together. It's like, oh, isn't it? It's like Shirley MacLaine, who like that's her, technically that's her husband. She's like, well, as long as he doesn't come back alive, I don't care.
Right.
It's like what the
Yeah, yeah. If you think about it, I mean, because Alfred Hitchcock is British, yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's from
Yeah,
England.
so yeah, it's a very like British sense of humor about like about death and things like that.
Which to be honest, I found really funny. Like this to me was a
Yeah,
very
I really like the dry British sense of humor.
yeah.
And just like how
I
everything is more seen as of like a nuisance or a chore as opposed to like this life or death thing. It's like, oh,
and
Harry's dead. Like, oh, Harry's dead, is he? Oh, he still owes me £5.
yeah, fucking Harry.
And,
Like
like,
we don't know how he died. We don't know who killed him or what killed him.
yeah.
He's just like this thing, that this inconvenient thing that they're trying to like maneuver around, and it ends up bringing like four people together, four or
Mm-hmm.
five people together. Like that's essentially what happens. And which in a sense, like it's like that's kind of wholesome. It's like, hey, this one death brought like a whole bunch of people together who ended up like caring for each other. So that's something.
Yeah, but it brought two couples together, and then it bonded four people together.
Exactly. Yeah, they're probably gonna be best friends for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and it's actually funny because like the dynamic, it's almost like I Love Lucy. You have like the younger couple and you have the older couple.
Dude, yeah. That's
One's a redhead.
There you go.
One. The older guy is kind of portly.
Yeah, he's like the William Frawley character.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Mertz.
Yeah, Mr. Mertz. Yeah, Fred Mertz.
You hit her pretty hard there, Rick.
That's your wife, dude. That's your wife.
Dude, I want to show her a clip of like some of like the highlights from like what, because she's a mixture of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, because when she gets really angry,
right,
she'll start like cursing at me in Korean.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's where like the Desi Arnaz comes out.
Yeah.
But like all her like little like faces and like noises that she makes,
yeah,
she's
and her meltdowns. Yeah.
Oh my god, it's like
Ricky.
Yeah, she does that. She does that. That like Lucy does. It's like I was like,
I know, and it'll be a challenge because your wife is prejudiced against black and white content.
I know, that's the thing. Like because I love Lucy, and God, I almost wish it was in color because she would probably like it.
Mm-hmm.
But she would like, because it's black and white, she refuses to watch it. Like it's just like, come on.
I know, it's so sad. Like like her generation, like because I still remember growing up with like just a TV that was purely black and white, and so like regardless.
Oh,
like,
you too?
Huh?
You too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that.
And so what is it? So like even like baseball games like that were from like when I was growing up in the '90s, I was watching on this old TV and it was black and white,
Hell
you know.
yeah.
And then I watched like old like older stuff. Like I'd watch old episodes of Batman, that weren't in color, but I just watched it in black and white on that
Fuck
TV
yeah,
screen,
that's awesome.
and and so on and so forth. So like I don't like I guess if I only knew a world with color television, I might have that same bias. But
I am
also,
both.
but also, I was saved. Luckily, I had my upbringing, but then also I got into photography, and black and white film is cheaper than color film. Um,
Yep.
and it's a lot easier to work with because you get to actually work because black and white film, you can work with it, and black and white photo paper, you can work with it in red light, but not white light, as opposed to color photo paper. You can only work with it in complete darkness, like no white light, no red light, no any kind of light will ruin it because it's sensitive to like color. It's
Yep.
all colors.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and actually, yeah, it was It was when I got into photography that I really started to get into, or started appreciating black and white.
Yeah. But yeah, I just
But not
like
your
this.
wife.
Yeah, no, it's not my wife. But no,
What a shame.
I like the like kind of like the almost like hilariously callous nature of all the characters.
Uh-huh.
Yet at the same
Oh,
time,
really quickly before we keep going, has she seen the TV show The Nanny?
oh no, she might like that too.
That might be a good way to get her to slowly to even try and watch I Love Lucy because because Fran
Fran
Dresser
Drescher does
definitely
the
took inspiration from Lucille Ball when creating
because
the show The Nanny.
yeah, because like when you actually like hear her real voice, like she's not
No,
as
not at all. Yeah,
as
it's kind of like the actress that plays Janet on Friends.
yeah.
Like she doesn't actually sound like that.
No, she doesn't. It's like
But yeah, yeah,
no.
you,
What I was saying about the film, going back to the Trouble with Harry, what I liked about it was just like it the funny callous nature of all the characters, yet how like kind like they're almost like kind and endearing, like they're fun. Like
right.
they all seem like real they really care about one another.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're all like honestly they're all
Oh, you know what
struck.
it is? They're also self-deprecating.
Yeah,
Like John Forsythe's character, Sam, I believe. He's self-deprecating that he's an artist. Um,
he's a starving artist.
yeah, he's a starving artist, and then Edmund Gwen's character. He's constantly like shitting on himself for being old and fat.
Yeah,
So yeah, so they are endearing.
yeah. So you like all the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love this is actually one of the few films that Hitchcock did on location. Although they scouted out this area in Vermont,
It looks like Vermont.
they did a lot of like they were able to get like some of it filmed in Vermont,
Mm-hmm.
but they had a very large like winter storm that came early,
Mm-hmm.
knocked all the leaves off the trees, and it was just like, well, we can't, the continuity was all fucked up. So they ended up having to
Okay.
film some of the scenes on a studio set.
Soundstage, yeah.
So what they did, so here's this is how like insane this is, and I can't believe that they did this. They took all the leaves that had fallen off the trees, like so you have your red and your brown, all those like New England,
Yeah, yeah. The autumn
leaf
colors.
paintings. They took all that shit. I mean, they had boxes and boxes filled with these fucking leaves. They took them to the soundstage. They created trees, and then they glued all those fucking leaves on the trees that they created in the soundstage. So there's certain time and when you're looking for it, and now because I saw the documentary about this film
Mm-hmm.
because it's in the Alfred Hitchcock, The Ultimate Collection. So I watched the documentary on this film, and now that like I didn't quite notice it like when I first watched it, but now that I've seen the documentary and I watched the film, I was like, you can tell when they're on the soundstage, and when they're in the actual location. But like I said, it's still like pretty for the time, it's pretty impressive. And I'll have to say, like the version I have, this movie looks like it came out not that long ago. It looks fucking great. It looks really good.
Yeah, yeah, it's still sharp and like the colors are very vibrant.
Yeah, they did. I think it was Yeah, it was Universal who did all like the restorations of these films, and my God, do they look good? I mean, they went all out on this. Same thing with like the with my Universal Monsters collection. All these films look phenomenal too because Universal restored all of these, and they look great. Like they look, it cleaned up all like the sound and like the actual like the footage and everything. Like they digitally like restored everything, and it's
they got rid of all like the little scratches and dust marks on the negatives.
Exactly, and it looks so good. And that's what they did with these Hitchcock films, because even like the stuff for like Rear Window and like all these like great classics, that was all done on film, and those are also starting to fade, and like they did need a digital restoration so that they can be preserved forever, and like they're like as close to their original quality as possible. So yeah, I thought it was I thought this movie is like a lot of fun. Just like you just have this like dead body that they have to keep like burying and unburying, and like it's like they have to keep moving it around, and it's like, oh no, it's like, and there's always some like sort of weird like hijinks of like a reason why they had to dig the body back up, and it's like how like it's just so like they had the hope.
The absurdity of it all is just
it's so absurd. Like I said, I'm sure that the guys who did Weekend at Bernie's watched this film. I mean, it's just so absurd, but it's so much fun, and like I laughed my ass off watching this, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I probably didn't like it as much as you did, but I still appreciated it.
Like I said, this is not by a landslide. This is not my favorite Hitchcock film,
right?
But I appreciate him doing something different.
Right. I mean, yeah, I can appreciate any auteur that that tries to stretch their legs and be like, oh no, let me get it, let me take a crack at doing a comedy, because at that point Hitchcock was known for like his suspense thrillers, and so
yeah,
I mean it's no one is appreciating their own time. I mean, just look at I mean, I keep I apologize for keep going back to Star Wars, but like look at George Lucas in the prequels. I mean, what we got like in the sequels, people are looking at the prequels and like, oh my god, these are masterpieces.
Yeah, and like you said, Hitchcock never won an Academy Award, which is insane to think about.
That is amazing. That is an astounding fact I did not know.
And Stanley Kubrick only won one Oscar for best like cinematography for 2001. He won one. It's like
really? Kubrick?
Yeah.
Well, 2001. That movie is gorgeous.
But he didn't win Best Picture. Like it's like he's never like both like Hitchcock and like Kubrick at some point should have won like Best Picture or like won something like more like been given a little bit more credit. But here's the thing. This goes back to our previous discussion. It's like the these movies, like Kubrick and Hitchcock, these have lasted the test of time. Like I couldn't, you go to like was it like 68, 2001? You had, well, that was also the same year that like Planet of the Apes came out,
Uh-huh.
but those were not the movies that won Best Picture. I think what the fuck won Best Picture that year? It's like the movies that like have lasted the test of time from that year were not like the ones that won Best Picture. It's kind of it's kind of that. Oh well, it's the critics at the time, like we talked when we were talking with my dad about 2001,
Mm-hmm.
is that it's like, yeah, people like the old guard, the old generation, they hated that film. It's like, this is stupid. Like, oh, it's has no originality. It's just like some psychological nonsense. Blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like my dad's generation that like watched 2001. Is like, oh, I am seeing something brilliant. I don't know why it's brilliant, but like I know it is. Like this is something like this is the next level. And those are the people that have helped develop technology to the next level. It's because they were inspired by 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, and like when it comes to film, how many people have been inspired by like Hitchcock and Kubrick? Tons.
Yeah,
Now you're
tons.
never gonna reach the same heights that those guys did, like because you're never you can't recreate that stuff. Like there's just,
Right. Yeah. There's no. Yeah. You can't capture lightning in a bottle.
but you can certainly like have
Well,
like
you can see. Yeah.
to
What's that
those
old
guys.
saying? Shoot for the moon. Because even if you miss, you're still among the stars.
Yeah, and like I was watching that Kubrick documentary before we started, and I understand like why Spielberg made AI. Like Kubrick was already talking with Spielberg, like, hey, what if I have you direct it and I'll produce it, and like
Mm-hmm.
we'll make this film. That's why like that's why Spielberg ended up making that film. Is kind of it was after Kubrick passed away. And it's like, oh, of course he did. Like they had been talking about that film for years before it was put out, and it's actually a
Mm-hmm.
really good film. Like people don't like people shit on it like when it came out, but I actually think it's a good film. But yeah, I like this film. I think I think it was a nice change of pace for Hitchcock that he never went back to. Obviously,
Right.
I mean, there's comedic elements in his films, but like
Right. But like,
you
no,
know,
he's not
this is
trying to be funny.
comedy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some people. Yeah. Some people can do it all, and some people can't. I mean, that's why. That's why Denzel doesn't do comedy. He did do one comedy, but it was
What? Oh,
so
no,
it, it was
what
so
is
bad that
what
he's
is the
like,
comedy that he did? Because I need to see this. Because I don't believe you.
what is it? Let me look it up real fast. Yeah, it was one comedy he did, but it was so bad, like it just didn't wasn't the right fit for him that he never did it again.
I need to watch this. That's why I need to see him in a comedy.
Da, da, da. Hmm. I think yeah, I can't remember what the movie was, but wait, was this it? It's with Bob Hoskins too.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow,
called Heart Condition from
heart
1990.
condition. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna pull, I'm gonna set that on my list. Heart condition. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. It's
From
the
1990.
from 1990. It's the only comedy that he did. Um, like that's like supposed to be a comedy, not just you know like a serious movie with comedic elements.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out just
Yeah,
because I'm so curious.
yeah. I mean, other like, and then there's also like one of his first outing, like Carbon Copy. That's kind of like a comedy, but it's not really. And it stars funny enough from Virginia, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, George Siegel.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
But what would you rate The Trouble with Harry? Like, what's your rating, Andy?
For me, The Trouble with Harry is a three.
Is it 3?
Is a three.
Just like I said, it just you liked it, but you're not. It's not like, man, this is like the greatest movie of all time, or
Right.
like
Yeah. It's not. It's like, oh, this is the best comedy I've ever seen. Is it? It's not. It doesn't warrant that.
it's certainly not.
I have to be fair. It's not that. I mean, is it? I do appreciate because I'm a bit of a completionist, and so like I want to see as many art Alfred Hitchcock movies as possible, and especially like this like one off.
Yeah,
Then of course,
yeah.
so I appreciate that.
There's quite a few of his that I have not seen. Like a lot of his early stuff I haven't seen from like back like in the 30s and whatnot.
Hmm.
And his stuff after the birds, like I outside of I've seen Marnie and I've seen Torn Curtain, but I have not seen Topaz or Family Plot.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, there's still like a bunch of his films that I keep discovering. I'm like, this guy is so good, and it's just I and like I said, I'm a completionist too. Like I want to see as much of the works of my favorite directors that I can.
Hmm.
Um, if it's even possible, like I know, like especially when you get into like the silent film guys, like some of their stuff is just gone. But I'm a little bit higher than you. I would say 3.5.
Hmm.
Like I said, I like the characters. I think the story, like to me, like maybe not you, but like I was laughing. I was like, I thought this movie was like just so
Yeah.
zany.
Well,
Yeah,
I
like
mean, yeah, I think one of the redeeming factors is they were such lovable characters, even though they're being like so callous and kind of macabre, especially dealing with a dead body.
yeah, that is like how like it's like Harry was like, well, fuck Harry, but it's like, but they were so nice and like kind. It's like, oh, it's like I'd really love it if we just kind of kept this between us. Like it was such a horrible accident. Like I didn't mean to do it, and it's like but it's like I just want to, just take care of the problems. Like, yeah, well, if you have some blackberry tea with me, like, or blackberry wine or whatever the fuck that she was trying to, like, it's like, because she wanted to be with the dude. She wanted to be
Right.
with Aaron's
Yeah.
character. It's like,
Yeah. She was doing a mid-century booty call.
yeah, I was like, it's like, oh, it's like this is so stupid and great at the same time. I love.
It's like stupid and sweet and kind of macabre and you know slightly callous, but
And
it still kind of worked.
I also love like the bookend, like where it starts off with like Harry just like sitting in that one spot, and it
Yeah.
ends with him sitting in that one spot.
Right.
And it's just like so like nothing changed. But like the only thing that changed was that the people that were manipulating Harry's body, their lives changed. They became
Right.
like
Yeah.
they got
It started with Jerry Mather, young Jerry Mathers finding the body, and it ends with young
Jerry
Jerry
Miller's
Mathers
body.
finding the body.
Yeah, so it's like a good like little like kind of like a bookend to the film.
Hmm.
And but like what changes is that the books within the bookend change. Yeah, it's like all the characters
Yeah. The
are
people
now
change.
like the people changed, and they and you I for me as the audience member, I liked that. I cared about that. I wanted them to be together and like be friends and become a family. And that's kind of what happened. And I don't
Although,
know.
yeah, although it probably happened a little too quickly for modern sensibilities, but
Fuck it.
um,
Who cares?
yeah, fuck it. I mean, yeah, like these people had a like loose idea of of like their neighbors or whatever, but just like how quickly Sam falls for what's her face.
Well, and we
Uh,
don't know if like maybe he did care about like he like looked at her and was like, oh damn, she looks pretty good.
well, yeah, I mean, like we know like they knew of each other, but just like the speed at which things started to coalesce, and I think for modern audiences like that suspension of disbelief
Yeah.
it would be hard.
Well, for an hour and a half movie, hey, you know what? Who cares?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. But again, I'm speaking for like modern people who might come upon this movie, and watch it and be like, that happened really pretty fast. Like, yeah, but it's a movie, so what do you expect?
It's like, is this, it's because this
It's
is
like
not a rom.
yeah, these people are moving around a dead body, and like these two people's relationship materializing, within a few hours is the problem.
Would you consider this a romantic comedy? If this is a romantic comedy, this is probably my favorite romantic comedy.
In a way, I guess you could categorize it as such. Um, but then also you could maybe also categorize it as a comedy thriller.
Oh yeah, like I said, it does have those elements because you're like, oh shit, like what's gonna happen when this person discovers the body?
Right, yeah,
Oh, he
and like
trips
yeah,
over
and
it because
then
he's fucking like he's so invested in his book he doesn't give a shit. It's
right,
like,
and then yeah, and then like the deputy sheriff guy, he's not as slow as a lot of people think him out to be, and he's like he's actually starting to put things together.
yeah, exactly. It's just fun.
Yeah,
So for me, it's 3.5 stars. I think this is if you are a Hitchcock fan and you haven't seen all his stuff, including this, check it out.
yeah. If you
It's
never,
really
yeah, if you never even heard of this movie, I was kind of aware of it, but I didn't know it was necessarily Hitchcock because I've heard the title or it's like some permutation of it. So in
and
that
like
way, I was aware, but I didn't know what the movie was about, and I didn't know that it was Hitchcock that directed.
yeah, and like I said, I would recommend if you can get your hands on it, grab the Alfred Hitchcock Ultimate Collection. It The Trouble with Harry is right in there, along with all. Like I said, if you end up not liking it, you have a whole bunch of other great Hitchcock classics in there that you can check out. So like all the pretty much all the greats are in there. You have Rear Window, The Birds, North by Northwest, Psycho. Like all the really good Shadow of a Doubt, like all that shit like is in there. So but then like you have like some other stuff that you might not think of. So
Okay. All right, folks. There you have it. That's our review for The Trouble with Harry. I give it a 3. Robbie gives it a 3.5. Uh, Still would recommend this movie. Yeah, especially if you fancy yourself a Hitchcock fan. The and you want him to you want to see him take a crack at a different genre. Um, I don't think you'll be disappointed. I wasn't disappointed watching this movie, even
yeah,
despite my seemingly middling rating of it.
ours is not a bad review. Like that's above average.
Yeah, it is. It is. But it's not. Yeah, but it's not a 4. That's why particularly I like the out of 5 rating because there's no place to hide because if out of 10 it's like it's like a 6 or whatever and that's relatively high, but you'll know like if you really liked it or you really didn't.
Yeah, if we're giving stuff like a 2 or a 1 star, that means like we did not like the film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no getting around it. All right, folks, that'll bring us to the end of our stream tonight. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob always has a good time.
Always.
If you enjoyed the stream, don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have. The Circular Jerk's main podcast, episodes of Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter and Letterboxd at PodcastCOJ, and Instagram at Circular Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us tonight. Come back next week and we'll do it all over again. Have a good night.